Hi everyone, this is Nick from Coin and Paper. And today we're going to look at the Saver category, or Stage 1, in the financial journey, and specifically the Create a Plan to Manage Debt, Increase Savings. So in a prior video, we looked at reviewing your financial snapshot. We actually set one up together, and from that, now we can create a plan to manage debt and increase your savings. So we're going to go back to that spreadsheet we used. And so this is the financial snapshot we put together. We have the income and expenses. We looked at our actual income and expenses. So we took, for example, our paychecks to figure out what our net income is for the year. And then we took that and divided it by 12 to get our monthly income. Then what we did is took our expenses from a month and put them all down so that we can see basically how much money we can take in or how much is going out. And then we looked at our financial assets, which is your savings accounts, your hard assets, which could be like your home or car. And then we looked at your debts, and basically we netted those two together to find out your net worth. So today with creating a plan, a financial plan is a budget. So budget is where you find out how much money you earn in your year, in a year. So that would be your budget, because that's how much you can spend. And then you allocate that to different needs, and basically your needs and your wants. So for example, we know your history here so far for last month anyway. So you know you spend $1,100 on a mortgage, $250 in car payments, $300 in credit card bills. So this is what you spend monthly. So this is the beginning of your monthly budget, because this is what you spend. This is what you're probably going to spend next month and the month after that. So you should budget this so that your dollars are going to the right place and you balance at the end of the month. So we're going to create that together. And instead of using this spreadsheet, I'm going to open up a new one. And if you're using a spreadsheet for the first time, you can name the tabs. So I'm going to name this tab Snapshot, or Financial Snapshot. And over here, we'll call this our plan, be budget. And we'll do that. So as far as putting the budget together, one thing you could do is get a template from the internet. And there's suggested categories that you can use, and you can copy it to help you plan. And basically, most households have the same categories. So if we go over to the internet, what I did is I went to Google and I Googled personal budget categories. And then this came up here. So I picked any of them, but you can see here there's so many screenshots. So I picked this common budget categories. What I'm going to do is take a screenshot of that. Or you can simply just type these in, which we might do in a second, right on your spreadsheet. And so I'm going to copy it here for now so it's easy to look at. And so these are common budget categories. So one is housing expenses, so put that there. And actually I'll just move the expenses word for right now. Housing, auto, food, entertainment, insurance, debt, so that would be like your credit card, clothing, savings. So savings, and you'll see why in a second. So it's not necessarily expense like you think, but it is somewhere where your money is going. So you should budget, because you want to budget savings. Child care, if applicable, medical, investments, which just could be a form of savings, actually, and miscellaneous. You might think of other categories in your head, but let's just use that right now. And then you may think of these things monthly or annual, and this is two columns to help us think about it differently. And you'll see why in just a second. So if we copy from our financial snapshot, here we have our net income. So net income, again, is how much you actually take home versus how much you your employer tells you get a year versus how much you actually take home, the taxes and everything else. So 40,000 net income for the year, 40,000. And then for the month, how much you actually get paid a month, depending on how many times a month you get paid and what your check says. So that's 3,333. And I like to format these things, so I'm going to make it in dollars, remove the pennies, so it's easier to look at. So this is the annual budget for how much money you take in. Here's the annual, here's the monthly. So as far as housing, we knew that. But actually, this is just the mortgage amount. There may be a lot of other types of things we spend in a month for housing. So this is where you can start adding more detail. These are general high-level categories, but you can use these as subtotals, and you'll see in a second. So what I'll do here is I'll make this lower. So I highlighted them all, and I drag this box down. But for housing, I'm going to do that again. For housing, maybe you have your mortgage. And I'm going to bold this. You'll see why in a second. And then the other thing would be maintenance, maybe. So you have to replace light bulbs or anything like that. Let's put another one on here, actually. The other one is utilities. Utilities is your gas, your cable, your lights, things like that. So we know from the mortgage that was $1,100 monthly amount and annual. So we'll do that. So times 12, that's the annual budget for mortgage. And so you can do either one. I like to do both here, but some of them you may think about it in annual terms versus monthly terms. You'll see those on here, but these are definitely easier to think about monthly terms. Because then for maintenance, maybe you don't, because every month you don't buy light bulbs and maybe replacement things. So since you're not sure exactly how much you would be spending on any given month, maybe for this one you think about it in annual terms. So let's just say for maintenance, not sure what the average is, and the average is something that would be different per household or if you're renting versus owning a home. But this is something you can find out on the internet, or just think about how much you actually spend. So just put a budget of $2,500, and to create a monthly budget out of that annual estimate, you can simply divide that by 12. So you want to make sure you have the monthly and the annual so you can get a good idea. Because when you budget, you're budgeting monthly. Even though you don't spend this monthly, like I said, you may spend it just a couple times a year and it equals $2,500, but still you want to save for that each month. So you always want to be prepared financially. You never want to have surprises. You're always putting money aside for these kind of things. Utilities, we'll just say it's $500. And this one's should be easy because you can look at the bills you pay for utilities and just add those up. And then this one you can multiply by 12. So with that said, now we have more detail. So here we had a housing category, but that's hard maybe to just simply put a number in there, and you have the data or you have the information as far as the major details underneath it. So it's better to just go to that level and budget for it and then get a sum. So now our housing line is $21,000 annually and $1,800 for monthly. So now the next one's auto, and all of these are subtotals. So subtotal, this is a subtotal of the items within it. So all of these are also subtotals, so you can break it down as much as you need to break it down. So for auto, if you have 2 cars, you can add a line for 2 cars and things like that. And then so I want to look at the savings. So the other ones you can break down. So actually let's break down 2 more together. So we'll break down the debts. So that one we know. And again, this one is high level category. So we'll say this is another subtotal. So we'll do that and we'll click bold. And we knew from the last page, even though our mortgage is in our debts here, but that's already included in housing. So we have car loan. Car loan could go, even though that's a debt, that could go in auto. But let's put credit card and school loans. So these two, credit card and school loans, we can put there. And as long as you get the general idea, you can name it, instead of debts, you can put it loans. Or it doesn't have to be debts, but debts is anything that you owe. And we also, again, we took the auto, we would put it here, and then the mortgage up here, just because they better fit in those categories. So credit card, we actually have the answer. So credit card bills, we pay $300 a month and $250 for school loans. 300, 250, and then this would be 300 times 12, and 250 times 12. Sum those up, and we'll drag that formula to the right, and we'll do the, actually we'll cover this whole thing, do the formatting. So $550 a month, paying these types of loans or these debts, and $6,600 for the annual amount. Now, as far as investments or savings, these, in my opinion, you could put these together in the same thing. So we'll put savings, make that the subtotal, and just move these things around. It doesn't have to be in any particular order. Investments is an item within the savings subtotal, in my opinion. So we'll highlight that, and other savings. So here you can be very specific with your savings. So emergency fund, essentially this is money that you have in case emergencies, so unplanned things, something happens. You just never know. So I have an emergency fund, and then anything else, let's say this is good for now. All right, and so investments can, for me, include retirement and just regular savings. Okay, but you could be specific if you like to. But for savings, let's just say you want to save $250 a month, and that times 12, 3,000, and maybe you want to put $100 a month or more towards emergencies. So that's that. We're going to sum that up, and there it is. Okay. So from these different categories, what you want to do then is make sure that at the end of the month there's zero. So you want to net to zero, because all your money should be going somewhere, even if it's just going in your checking account. That's going to your emergency fund. So every dollar should be planned. Every dollar should be directed somewhere. And this is controlling your budget. This is planning where your expenses are going. So in a financial snapshot, what we did is found out where you are today. And by the way, in companies, as I studied financial statements for companies, this is actually a balance sheet for companies. So this is one of the main financial statements companies review, is the balance sheet, and this is a current snapshot of where things are. So this is where things are at a given point in time, which can change over time, but this is where things are today, actual situation. Budget is where you want to go in the future. So this is planning where your dollars are, where you want your dollars to go. So you're directing your money. You're controlling your money at this point. So this is your plan, and this is what you want to try to stick to. So again, we have the annual amount, or sorry, the monthly amount and the annual amount of what you take in. So what we would do is make sure, again, this nets to zero, because you want to plan for every single dollar. So that's your income. So I'm going to subtract now the expenses by category. And I didn't put anything for those, so I'm not going to subtract that. So I'm going to subtract what we did together, these three categories. And so we have $625 left over. If I move that over to the right, that equates to $7,500 a year left over. So this is money we have left over to plan for, to budget. And so we haven't even done auto yet, food, entertainment, insurance. So once we budget for those items, we would subtract those items again from the income to see where we are. And we may find that after some other expenses like our auto or food, we don't have any other money for medical. So that's where we want to balance the budget. So we want to make sure net zero, and your priorities are your needs, which is you have to pay your mortgage, you need utilities, you need food, and then you adjust it. Basically the only areas you can really adjust is your discretionary spending. And your discretionary spending is basically like your wants. So entertainment is an area you can adjust. Clothing, as long as you have your basics, you can adjust clothing. And miscellaneous, which could be really anything. So this is creating a budget. So this is creating your plan. And from this plan, you want to make sure, because our whole purpose here with Coin to Paper is getting you to a point where you're financially in control, and for us, more importantly, in a position where you can save and invest your money. So for us, the focus of why you would do this is because, one, you want to pay off all your debt as soon as possible, and then focus on increasing your savings and investments so that you can reach your financial goals, and really that's the main thing for us. So one last thing, again, with as far as controlling your money, we looked at here with the payoff debt from your monthly income, and we saw here there was a savings of $483, the actual savings for a particular month that we looked at. But now with your budget, you wouldn't have a net, because again, you would be directing every single dollar to a certain category, and you would direct those dollars based on your priorities. So for example, if you wanted to pay off your debt sooner than that, you would take this extra income, your surplus income for the month, and you would actually increase your budget for your loan payments. And that is, again, directing your money or controlling your money to meet your strategic goals. So thank you, and look forward to the next video.